I see it.
What's up? And thank you for checking out the Hospitality Strategy Lab. My name is Jason Littrell. I'm here with Joe Mikulich. Did I say that right?
You
Mikulich.
did knock it out of the park. It was good.
Thank you so much for being here. You've got this kind of stellar track record for creating these successful and scalable hospitality operations, and you're a super young guy. You want to tell me your story?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's an honor. So my name is Joe Mikulich. I am fairly young. I'm 34 years old, about to be 35 in March. But I'm local in Las Vegas, born and raised here. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I played soccer my whole life growing up, and I was blessed to go to UNLV and continue that, and hopped into the hospitality world at UNLV for business or hotel administration and finance. And my path just kind of led me to work on the strip and work in some cool restaurants. I worked for Jose Andres at one of his restaurants here on the strip, became a sommelier there, and grew that path and met some amazing partners, and decided to do my own thing off the strip about 10 years ago. And now this restaurant group has grown, and we're about to have 4 full restaurants, 3 of which in Las Vegas and 1 in Seattle.
Okay. Las Vegas. I hear the real Las Vegas is off the strip, right? I mean, everybody.
It's
I know
definitely
who lives
growing to
there,
be that, yeah.
but it's still a very dense F&B town. How do you communicate with your customers, and who is your customer?
Yeah, a couple of ways. I mean, coming from the strip with my partner, and we are definitely a group that's a little bit more adventurous and trying to push the envelope with cool tasting menus and things like that. Our connections from the strip, Vegas is still so darn small that we got a lot of love from the industry from the strip coming off strip or talking about us. Tourism has always been a big driver of the group, with people coming into town, and if they want a secondary option to get off the strip, that's becoming more and more common for people to come for a convention and then say, hey, let's find some other restaurants off the strip that might be a little bit better value or just a little bit more venturous.
So I'm sorry. Remind me. How do you connect with your customers in Las Vegas?
Yeah, a few different ways. So with our connections from the strip and working on the strip for so many years, a lot of the people that work on the strip love to support off strip. So that alone, when they're off, they come and check us out. They're talking to guests that dine with their restaurants and are saying, hey, like, here's some other options that we go to off strip. One big way, I mean, with media, there's definitely been a big push for off strip restaurants to get some recognition, whether it's Eater or different articles to come off strip and try some of us. And then just doing a really good job with regards to retention with these guests. There's a weird thing in Las Vegas. Vegas is going through a weird thing right now with, the economy and tourism and all this stuff. And more locals are trying to, save money and support their local restaurants, and not going to the strip is a big part of that, I think.
Okay, so like most of your customers are local.
I would say for Anima, it's probably 60-40. Favoring the locals. My other restaurant, EDO, which is going to be moving into this shopping center, was much more heavily trafficked towards tourism. It's a little bit closer to the strip. And then my new restaurant that's about to open in 2.5 weeks is directly behind the Sphere. So it'll be, I'd probably say a vast majority of it will be tourism.
I mean, 10 years ago when you first got involved in this stuff, like as an operator, not as a sommelier, but as an operator, like you were freshly graduated. What are your thoughts on like how the world has changed since then?
Man, I mean,
it seems like it's like a whole different universe, right?
It is. I mean, there's so many different factors that go into it. We started super small. EDO was 32-seat restaurant. It's not too difficult to fill in the seats on that. There's 3 million people in Las Vegas who live here, so if we can't fill in the seats on there, we have a very, very big problem. So it's changed a lot, though. There's a lot of money coming into Vegas. COVID changed a lot, where people were moving to Vegas a lot more, and now we're having more businesses come here. People are spending a lot more money on building out restaurants too. I mean, I've been to a handful of restaurants recently that are off strip, and the amount of money they're putting into these businesses is baffling. There's a lot of brand new developments that are coming to Las Vegas. So there's definitely like a lot of hype and a lot of fun coming around the city that has never been here before. Like, just being born and raised, there was nothing off strip that was really, really worth going to. Maybe a handful of restaurants I can think of when I was in my teens and 20s. It's just starting to become a bigger thing.
What are your thoughts on, I'm referencing this article that Marita, I should find, her name is right here, but she wrote this Medium article that you gave, and I thought it was you gave some really thoughtful answers. I'm going to find her name just because it's important. It is Marita Mesti. And so she ask you some really, really great questions. And one of the things that stuck out to me was about operational complexity and kind of simplifying things. Like you're about to open up a restaurant on like literally 2 weeks from now. How do you train people to get the basics right? How do you master the basics?
Yeah, I think that, regardless of what restaurant it is, it could be a fast casual restaurant or it could be something high end that requires, 20 courses tasting menu. I think focusing and not trying to overcomplicate things. Yes, those things can get a little bit more expensive and take a little bit more detail and things like that. But if you don't have the building blocks of the goal is to make people happy, the goal is hospitality at the end of the day. None of that other stuff matters. And there's I just telling these guys yesterday. There's so many restaurants that I've gone to where the food is okay. I would say that there's a baseline of like the food needs to be good, but if I don't feel good, if I don't talk and communicate and get some laughs in, or maybe learn something from the staff, or I don't feel welcome, I'll never go back. And that there's plenty of places like that I can think of that are super successful, classic restaurants that have been around for these 30, 40 years. Those restaurants aren't necessarily changing their menus every day and trying to do this cutting edge stuff. They're just very good at hospitality. They know how to make people feel good when they go in there. And I think that matters more than ever. Obviously, no knock to chefs. They're artists and they definitely have a place in the overall experience. But we're kidding ourselves if we don't want to feel good or to look good and to be noticed in hospitality. And none of that has to do with food.
All right, so you're knee deep in training right now. Can you run us through like exactly what you're covering, like what and why you're covering it, and what your philosophy is on training and training, specifically training for new openings, which is way harder than continuing education for staff.
Definitely. I've been blessed. We retain a lot of our staff, and a lot of my team from Anima and EDO are taking this leap and growing into new roles. So some of my staff is going to be already with this team and kind of understands me and my group and my chef team. So I'm blessed on that front that they're also carrying a little bit of the water to push these new staffs. I'm very big on personality. I love hiring people with a great personality and a willingness to learn. One of the biggest things that we've been doing for the past few days is kind of like icebreaking moments. Just get people friends and willing to feel the need where feel comfortable with just getting to know each other. It gets just breaking that boundary right off the bat is one of the biggest things that we have to do, because otherwise like you just feel awkward when you get into the room, at least for the first few months. So trying to get these guys to become as close as possible, making jokes, trying to create scenarios where they're having fun together, learning together, testing each other, tasting together, whether it's food and beverage. I'm on the SOM side, so we went through 15 wines over the past few days, and a little bit of alcohol in their system. They all started getting a little bit more chatter going, which I honestly, aside from like getting drunk, that's definitely not the goal, but it opened them up a little bit to be a little bit more comfortable, and I'm all about that. Like it was great yesterday. Putting them in different settings. Right now we're training at Anima and one of my other locations, because Brasseria, the new actual restaurant they're going to be at, is still in construction for the next few days. So we haven't been into the room yet. So it's putting them in different settings. Like I just went outside of my patio and, it's 70 degrees in Vegas and the sun was out. It was beautiful. And we put the busters and the hostess team out there just to be in a different setting and more focusing on just being with themselves and learning together. I'm super hands-on when it comes to training. I don't like the idea of like sending them home with just a bunch of packets and emails and things like that. Like I want to get into the nitty gritty of learning what's going on together. And if they get wrong answers, we've been testing every morning. And for the past few days, we're too new. I'm not trying to hold these guys accountable with, if you get something wrong. I want you just to absorb this information, whether you hear it from me or whether you're looking it up. You're taking it in. This first few weeks, the first week of training, it should just be full absorption. I'm not trying to say, you're fired if you don't get these 10 questions correct. We'll get to that later. Let's just become friends first. Let's just become dependable on each other.
So how long is the actual training program leading up to an opening?
We do about 12 days of training. That includes us sitting down in the space with the projector and all that stuff and learning about the different wines and the food, the ethos of this group, all that jazz, what this concept's going to be. We're going to be getting into the restaurant later on this week, and we'll start loading in all the tables and chairs. And I love the staff being part of that whole process. They feel like it's more, they feel a bigger part of it to say like, hey, I opened this restaurant. And I literally had to say and where these AP glasses or where these water glasses go. I love that stuff. And I think they take a little bit more initiative and ownership of the room when they have that ability. And It's going to be a good timing. It's obviously restaurants openings always are stressful. There's a lot of stuff that can always happen, too many variables, but you just learn
I
to
mean,
kind of just go with the punches. And
I had a kind of a nerdy side question. Like, is it pretty easy to open up a restaurant in Las Vegas? I live in New York, and it's like actively hostile. The city, like with permitting and compliance and stuff, it's crazy.
I haven't opened up in New York. We opened up in a hotel in Seattle, and that posed a whole nother layer of different problems to solve. I've opened up a few restaurants on the strip. I think on the strip and in a hotel, it's a little bit more controlled and a little bit, you have a little bit more support. I will say that off strip restaurants where you don't have like this multiple layers of assistance to do all these small little tasks, you're not, the delegation is significantly less. It falls on the ownership and a lot of the team a lot harder. It really depends. When we opened up EDO, we were able to get everything relatively quick. It was a pre-existing restaurant. Second generation restaurants is kind of our name of the game. I will say Brasseria was a little bit more difficult because even though it was second gen, the restaurant had been closed. It was there for 25 years. It sat empty for like 9 or 10 years. So nothing was up to code. It might have been just it could have been just a brand new restaurant at that point. We had to do so much construction, so much work, so much permitting. And this one in particular has definitely taken a little bit of extra time than what we had forecasted.
I've never heard of a restaurant opening up on time.
Ever.
I've maybe worked on 40, 50 bar programs, and not a single one has opened on time. All right. What are some of the numbers that you care about? What are some of the when you're like as an owner, as a partner, you're like, okay, these are the numbers that I care about when you're tracking the performance of a restaurant?
Sure. I hold my guys pretty accountable on the leadership side. That a lot of them have taken this leap to grow with us. Vegas is weird. We compete with the strip with regards to the talent pool. So we've been blessed to bring on a lot of guys from the strip. And that their jobs change. You can be a GM on the strip, and what you're held accountable to is so different than what off strip restaurants need. There's an influx of guests that come in for the strip for the most part, where we have to really focus on, I think, way more than the strip is guest satisfaction and retention of these guests. So I'm paying attention to reviews of all platforms very, very seriously. Something that I definitely hold my management team on accountable for is touching tables with every single guest. We're small enough to where there's no reason why my leadership team can't have an interaction with every single table. If we're doing, my restaurants are not very big on average of 100 covers a day. There's no reason why they can't have an interaction with each table on the leadership side. So I'm definitely pretty strong on that. I do it myself. I think it's super crucial. Let's see, what else? We take very, very strict. Yep.
Go ahead, please.
I was going to say we take insanely strict notes, just going to the making sure that these guests feel special when they come in. Water preferences, all of this goes on chits into their reservation profiles. Next time they return, it's a much more forward thinking, retain as much information as possible about these guests so that when we approach tables, we're not asking the same redundant questions that we probably already know the answer to. So I'm big on that. My hostess team, my management team, the staff is all kind of in the loop of we're taking down notes of what guests want, what preferences are. I make my hostesses type pretty frequently about each guest in their profiles.
If you don't mind me asking, what are you using for that? Like Open Table, 7 Rooms, Talk, something like that?
For the longest time, we only used Open Table. Open Table, as you know, I think had the monopoly for quite some time, but they are insanely expensive. They were the first, and I don't think they changed their model. I think they charge way too much per cover, and now other companies are starting to take over that segment. And so we switched. We still offer reservations on Open Table, but we have a management system that links everything together or tries to communicate. But we predominantly use 7 Rooms now.
Got it. Okay, so on a scale of McDonald's Turn and Burn to 11 Madison Park Dreamweavers, where they literally investigate every guest and guest of guests.
Yep.
Where are you guys at?
I would say we're at like a 7.
A 7. Okay.
7.
On a 0 to 10 scale. Got it.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. What EMP is doing is next level type stuff. Our price per head is probably around $95-$100. So I wish I had the ability and to afford a single person to research every guest and know their shoe size every single day.
I had this one experience when I was there, and we were like we were the hosts, and then we had guests, and then the guests had they had looked at our guest's wife's Instagram and made a drawing of their dog, and then wrapped it up like a present on the table. And
It's crazy.
it was like just this side of creepy. It was like
Yeah,
just on the right side of creepy. But it could have, like, if they didn't play it just right, it would have been kind of weird.
definitely. Yeah, there's a borderline where it's almost like too intrusive, where you're like, how did you figure this out type
Yeah.
thing. I respect it. I mean, I think it's super cool. I went there and it's an amazing restaurant. I'm not knocking it. Definitely, I wish I had the opportunity to work in a restaurant or have my own restaurant that demanded that kind of a price point. We're not there yet, but or I don't even know if Vegas is there yet, but it's respectable for sure.
Well, they famously they kind of kept themselves in the headlines, not only with, like, I'm sure, a very strong PR engine, but also they were very clear on what they stood for and what they stood against. So, like, they were like, we're going to go vegan. We're going to go tipless.
Yep.
They went tipless, I think, right? They're like,
Yep.
we're going to go vegan. That was the big thing. And everybody's just like, what are you guys doing? This is not going to work. And, years later we found out it didn't work, because now they're back to being carnivores. But
Yeah, they went back.
what,
That was like
what,
last year, right?
yeah, it was recently. So what do your
Yeah.
places stand for? What do they stand against?
The biggest
I,
thing that I think that our group does.
I
Sorry, go
told
ahead.
you they were going to be easy questions. I'm sorry, but
Oh no, no, no. I'm totally. I like this question. I tell these guys myself. I've kind of always been so driven on the guest experience. I tell my guys all the time, like the chef team, obviously being on the front of house side is where I focus. I love delegating and hiring these amazing chefs that have joined me. We have a lot of insane talent, from three-star Michelin restaurants in Spain to guys that have worked at L'Atelier and Robuchon by Joel Robuchon.
I opened up one of
I'm
the
blessed
bars.
with
Yeah.
these artists, but that is completely separate. I'm very big on making sure that we do everything in our possibility to show these guys a great time. That when the food comes out, that should speak for itself, and we can't rely heavily on those things. But I think what my group does differently is there's no reason in my world why we can't put out amazing quality food, that you learn something, that you taste a new ingredient, but you're doing an experience that's a little bit more comfortable. It's not super high end. We're not a group that's very stuffy. There's no suit and tie and a double Windsor from every single management team. I'm all about tattoos. I'm much more like open to that whole world of showing creativity, not only with the food, but with the staff, making relationships and joking with people. We definitely come from a little bit more of a casual, but still we know exactly how to run service. But there's no reason why we can't have a laugh and joke with other tables together, and not make it such a stuffy environment, but still have high quality food that you can, enjoy and learn.
I would hope so. Yeah, it's like kind of table stakes these days. Like a high
Yeah,
quality,
yeah,
memorable experience, and then just really good food. It's just like that's where you begin. Okay, you mentioned
totally.
delegation a couple times. How do you take things off of your plate effectively so that everything gets done?
Sure. I'm new in this world. Like I'm still learning every day. Being only 34, I've been on the leadership side with soccer and other things too. But how I focus on doing it, it doesn't work out if I don't make myself as healthy and clear-minded as possible. I definitely focus on staying in very close communication with all of my leadership team. I love doing physical things with them. So I like me touching back on me being an athlete. I love doing things outside this restaurant world just to create a relationship where my staff and my team feels like they can trust me, can count on me, but also do things outside of their comfort zone for the better of this group, and ending up with myself. But like we run hills. My team, we go on runs on. We didn't do it today because we're in training, but Wednesday mornings we always go run together. Putting them in a situation where like they are doing something better for themselves that the hospitality world could always use more of. And it's a jump start to their day. But like, the people that come to things like that, outings, maybe not physically exerting running, but I definitely find the benefit. But doing things outside the restaurant where you can build relationships and friendships where you're dependent on each other has always been big with us. Those people that come and do those things have been with me longer than anyone else. They find a sense of place, a community, and that they're way more dependable. So communication's a big one for me. Doing things outside the workplace and showing that I appreciate and respect and want to grow with these individuals has grown leaps and bounds for this group. I love it. But I use my calendar a lot. I use alerts, workday, all those things. I try and fill up my calendar as much as possible, even if it's just setting alerts to remind them of certain things or things that I hold them accountable for. My calendar is always full with those things. I think staying as organized as possible has been the best thing I've ever done with regards to delegating. Holding people accountable really is a big part of it.
Interesting. This is like my love language, project management for, especially for like openings and like specific destination events, like let's say opening up the doors on time. There's just so many like
Yeah.
thousands of variables, and it's impossible to manage that cognitive load if it's not out there on paper or on a spreadsheet, or in my case, pretty crazy project management software. Okay, well, I'm guessing that you have a room full of people that are excited to open up a restaurant in 12 days. So, is there anything else that you would like to share before we wrap it up?
Nothing else. I mean, shoot us a follow on social media. Mine is Joe Mikulich on Instagram. The handful of restaurants, you have Anima by EDO, you have Brasseria by EDO, and then in Seattle we have La Loba, Laloba. So would love to see you guys all come in. I'd love to chat more, but really good to meet you, Jason.
All right, thank you so much for doing this. This has been Joe Mikulich from the EDO Hospitality Group, opening up a restaurant in 17 days and somehow came up with a couple minutes to talk to us. So I really, really appreciate it. We're going to put all the stuff in the show notes. Joe, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Talk
of course,
soon.
and good luck. Talk soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.